Hey guys, Buckeye Bar guys. We wanted to thank you guys for tuning in to us here on Buckeye Bar Talk. Great show we got coming up today. We're really looking forward to you guys listening and watching it. But just wanted to remind everybody, just remember to subscribe to the channel, hit the all notifications bell, and that way, anytime a new show comes up, you guys will be alerted to it. And don't forget to like the video and comment on the video. All interactions with us helps us continue to grow, and we appreciate your support. Now to the show. Welcome back, everybody, to Buckeye Bar Guys here on Buckeye Bar Talk. I'm Mike.
And I'm John.
Tonight's date is Thursday, September 29th, 2022, and we're going to be discussing tonight the upcoming game against Rutgers for the Buckeyes. So we'll go over some of our thoughts about the game. John will run down some different stats and some stuff from Rutgers this year, and then we'll do our normal, given who we think players of the game will be coming up, just some of our predictions, and then we'll start going over scores, and then we will get on out of here. So I think Rutgers, when you think about playing them, it should be kind of like most people think, it's kind of like an easy game. But there's different times where they will, you think about it like a couple years ago where they threw all those crazy plays in the second half and got back into the game, not got back into the game, but, made the game a little closer than, you thought it was originally. So, I think that's probably some of the stuff we could see. What do you think about, some of that?
Yeah, I agree with that. I think I think it was Berm. I was listening to the podcast earlier today, and I'm pretty sure it was him. He said that if Greg Schiano tries to do any of that Ryan Day is going to try to put a number on him this time around. So we'll see. But yeah, I agree with you. It's always Rutgers is like, I was trying to think, there's never been a competitive game with Rutgers since they've been in the Big Ten. Ohio State's never played a good game with them. They've always destroyed them. So I can't imagine this game's going to be much different just from what we've seen in the past. I could be wrong. I know it's a better Rutgers defense than what they've had. That's Schiano's specialty, but it was Ash's also, and they weren't good then. Yeah. And and they say, that they've been better and they've been improving, but I don't know. The last two times against Ohio State, it hasn't really shown on the field. So I don't know. I'm not hopeful Rutgers can stay in this game very long. I think it's just going to be more of the same that we've seen.
Yeah. Defense is, kind of Wisconsin's specialty too with Jim Leonard. And, we saw what happened last week with that. And, so I'm not necessarily, I get it that Schiano's a defensive minded coach and stuff. And there might be a couple things where he can maybe trick up the Buckeyes a little bit, but I don't see where, he has any of the horses that he thinks going to be able to, stay with Ohio State's defense. And, Rutgers' offense, I don't know where 100% necessarily where they're at, but I think that Ohio State's defense has got to have a big time advantage on that front too.
Yeah, there's nothing that impressive about Rutgers' offense. So I think you're right. You're going to have to see some of those trick plays that we've seen from Schiano in the past. Because the one thing, that Greg Schiano is smart enough, to realize is when he is outmanned going into a fight, and when he, just doesn't have the horses, artillery, however you want, whatever cliche you want to say with it. He knows when he's not going to win a game. So he'll pull out some of that crazy stuff, some of those trick plays, probably early and often to try to, get one or two on the Buckeyes and then go from there. Yeah. But yeah, I don't imagine, I don't think their offense has anything special that's going to challenge Ohio State. And I don't imagine that he thinks they do either.
Yeah. Yep. I'm assuming we'll see probably a fake punt somewhere in this game. We'll probably see, maybe a receiver throw, whatever. Different things like that, who knows, maybe the Statue of Liberty. I'm sure there's all kinds of little things you might be throwing, but yeah, I think that will probably be that. I expect to see them, so it'll be which will be kind of good. It'll be a kind of a different challenge at Knowles' defense in a different way. I mean, you always got to be prepared for that kind of stuff. You might get into a game where actually it could be more of a slugfest and somebody, you play a Michigan and stuff. I mean, I know Gaddis ain't there anymore, but Gaddis was always kind of like one that you used to kind of like throw some weird, like,
He'd have his trick play
early in the game. So, I mean, you can't count them out of that. Same times, different times, maybe Penn State has done some like, quirky things, not necessarily trick plays, but try to do misdirection plays and stuff like that.
You think Miami's wondering if there's a return policy on that guy?
Can we send him back?
I mean, I just like, how didn't anyone know? Like the fact that he won, did he win the Broyles?
Yeah, I think so, which was crazy.
The fact that he won it, like all of us are like, this is the biggest, like, I mean, it's sad when it's like the award shows, they don't even watch the football games. Like the guy was not a good offensive coordinator ever. Like even last year, they beat Ohio State's ass with Jim Harbaugh's offense.
I mean, it's the reason. I mean, Desmond, he wins the Heisman because he does the Heisman pose running back against, I mean, Woodson was much better of a, Heisman candidate.
Desmond had good numbers in college.
Yeah, not enough to win the Heisman in my opinion, but but I don't know who was there. But that's like Gaddis. You beat Ohio State. That's all they care about, and it's like, okay, he's a Heisman finally, or he's a Broyles Award winner. I mean, the reason why Aiden got second place, not saying he wasn't a bad player or something like that.
Oh, he absolutely got second in the Heisman voting because of the Ohio State game, for sure.
So, they get those little things on the award circuit when they beat Ohio State. Yeah, so, I mean, you want to run down through your things?
Yeah, so, I mean, Rutgers really, I mean, where they've gotten better has been on the defensive side of the game, which I mean, that makes sense with Greg Schiano being their head coach. So I'm just looking at really their rushing defense. We'll go through it. So before we get into that, so their quarterbacks, it's kind of like a 3-man rotation right now. They're not really healthy. So Vedral from last year, I think he's out. Evan Simon seems to be the guy that's going to be starting. He didn't really have any great stats to write home about. I don't think he's played that much this year. Gavin Wimsatt, he's a true freshman. He's 4-star. He's actually a player, but again, he's kind of banged up too. So I don't know what we're going to get as far as their quarterback play. Wimsatt could be interesting though, because he's an athlete, so he'll move around and he might give you some of those looks that Daquan Finn did.
Yeah, which will be good for the Buckeyes, to get some of that stuff thrown at them.
So their 2 running backs, Kyle and excuse my handwriting, Mangani. He's averaging 3.7 yards per carry. Al Shahi Salam, he's averaging 5.8. And their wide receiver, I think he's been at Rutgers for a minute, but you'll remember him from Wisconsin, Aaron Cruikshanks.
Yeah, I remember. Okay, he's there now.
Yeah, he transferred over. He's a good player. Yards allowed per game is 249. Passing yards is 193. Rushing yards is 56.8. So their defense has looked good. I wanted to do a deeper dive into their run defense because that number does kind of stand out, 56 yards per game. So game 1 against Boston College, they won 22-21. They gave up 59.8 yards to Boston College. 29. Boston College averages 59.8 on the year. So about half of Boston College's production on the year is what they gave up. So that's really good. They played Wagner in game 2. So Wagner does not have stats that are available on ESPN. They gave up 19 yards in that game. So again, good output. Temple was game 3. They won 16-14. Temple averages 91.8 yards per game. They gave up 49. So again, this is below the other team's average, well below. Like we're talking like 50%. And then Iowa was game 4. Iowa won 27-10. Thanks, as always, on the back of Iowa's defense.
Yeah.
This one was an outlier. Iowa averages 101 yards per game, and they ran up to 129 on Rutgers, which, I mean, that could just be product of Iowa's offense is finally starting to go a little bit. So, that 129 raised them above the 100 for the year. But that's definitely, more than what Iowa was averaging for the year. So that's one to look at. And then possibly, once competition gets a little bit bigger, gets a little bit stronger, definitely, in the opposition's favor,
Yeah.
that maybe Rutgers can't stand up to the other running offense. So
Iowa's definitely known to have a pretty solid offensive line.
right, exactly. So what this all means, Rutgers is giving up 249 yards per game. Ohio State's averaging 558. So something's definitely going to have to give there, because Ohio State's averaging, double what Rutgers is giving up. Rutgers is giving up 193 through the air. Ohio State's getting 339. And then Rutgers is giving up 56.8 on the ground. Ohio State's getting 219. So, I mean, definitely something has to give there. I don't know if Ohio State, if they're looking more like the other three games where they will get less than what their rushing average was, or if they'll be like Iowa and they'll get, 20% more than what they typically do. So that's where I'm at. I mean, I don't know. It's not going to be a good game.
Yeah, I think
to be honest with you, it's not good. I don't think it's going to be a good game. I think Iowa proved that, once the bigger, more talented offensive line goes up against Rutgers, they'll have their way. So I'm sure Rutgers will give them some looks that'll be confusing, but Ohio State will be able to figure it out.
I could see by the, I think probably by the end of the first quarter that Ohio State's offensive line and their running game will be above Rutgers's average rush defense.
I could definitely see it for sure.
I mean, so I think Ohio State will be fine on that thing. I think that you see once they get into maybe a better running team that they're not, I'm not going to say they're bad rush defense, but they're not as good of a rush defense as the first three games have showed.
The numbers are going to start turning around with better competition.
And, so yeah, that's how I kind of feel about that. So, I mean, any other thoughts you want to give them before we start getting into our kind of just what we think player game wise are going to be and stuff?
No, I mean, I think as long as Ohio State can, keep their composure, not get fooled by trick plays, they're going to be fine.
Yeah, that's kind of how I'm feeling. It's basically, this is an Ohio. I mean, most weeks it's this week, but especially when you play a team like Rutgers, this is an Ohio State versus an Ohio State game that, you're playing against yourself. And, I mean, you're playing to look good, and, you don't want to have Rutgers, making you look bad at different points of the game. So I think that's just the biggest thing. Just stay within your composure, and this should be a fairly simple. I mean, if you think last week's game was simple, I would have to imagine as long as they come in with the same mindset.
Well, that's the thing. Like, can you keep yourself up for Rutgers after what you just did to Wisconsin?
Yeah. So yeah, I agree with all that. I think that they should. It should be a pretty simple game, and I think that they will come in pretty ready to go. It just seems like they're doesn't seem like where last year it seemed like they were kind of they would get into the second half of games and you just got this feeling that it was like they were ready just to be done with the game. It hasn't seemed like that's been them this year, so they definitely seem like they're much more of a team on a mission right now. Yeah. So I think when usually you get into those situations that we've seen in years past when they're trying to prove something, then they take pretty much every game pretty seriously. Going through, and I think
they've never had problems with Rutgers being that punching bag either.
Yeah, and I think it actually kind of benefits them that it's not a night game where sometimes Rutgers is weird. It gets into those. They've had so many night games against Rutgers on the Big Ten Network and it's like that's kind of one of the teams that you kind of over the last few years. It's like they get into the second half against Rutgers and they kind of. I'm not saying Rutgers comes back on them, but it just feels like Ohio State gets a little sloppy, and you definitely could tell they just want to go home. And it's just like, why are we still playing these guys?
Yeah.
And where I think this will be, nice midday game, 3:30, and they'll be able to, it's not going to be overly hot or anything. It's, we're getting into the cool time of the year. So I think they should probably easily beat them, and they'll stay in the game.
Yep, I agree.
All right. Offensively, so who would you say your predictions are for player of the game? Your offensive player of the game?
I mean, meaningful snaps. I don't know if he'll end up with the most stats or not, but I think it'll be Mayan Williams. I think Mayan's going to have. I mean, I think Trey could have a big game too. So I don't know, but I think mine, if he gets the rock the majority of the handoffs between these guys, or if Trey goes out first because things are getting a little lopsided, I think mine will end up with over 150 yards.
Yeah. Um, that one's interesting. I kind of have a feeling this is going to be like kind of, I'm not going to say a coming out party, but this is going to be like, I think Trey's going to have some big runs in this game. So I could see him, kind of being the guy for this week. I'm going to go with my guy is going to be, I think it's going to be one of the receivers. So I'll just say Marv to say Marv that it's
Well, it's a Marv game, so yeah,
I think he will have a big game. It just, again, I don't know how you cover these guys, so I'm gonna say that he's gonna have a huge game. I just see him getting into over 100 yards and a couple scores. So
I like that. Surprising player. I'm going to still go with, well, I don't know. I mean, I don't think any of these guys would be like for, when the game still matters, because I don't think the game's going to matter long. I'm going to say Jaden Ballard. I think he's going to get a lot of playing time in this game, and I think I think he'll get a deep shot that he'll get for a touchdown. I think he'll get another one, a big run after catch like he did against Toledo. Not sure he'll take it all the way home or not, but he'll get close to like 75 to 100 yards.
yeah. Actually, I mean, I don't know if it's necessarily. I'm kind of going on the same wavelength. I think you are. I think it's going to be, because I think guys like Ballard, I think they are going to get McCord as long as everything looks good. They're going to get McCord in this game early. I think this is kind of a game where Ryan Day just is going to be like, get up on these guys and let's get these guys out of here. We got, Michigan State the following week. We got some big games coming up down the stretch here before the end of the month. So let's try to get out healthy. I'm going to say G Scott. I think,
I was going to say
they're really,
I've tried it twice already, so I'm not going to jinx myself.
They're really focusing a lot. They're starting to really focus on the tight ends. And I think that, even though when Ballard's in the game, Xavier's in the game, there's not as many receivers. So it's like, a defensive team, they should have numbers to be able to cover everybody. So, G is not going to be running necessarily free like, Kate's been running.
But that's why Ballard was so wide open against Toledo's, because Scott pulled everyone with him.
Yeah, that's true too. So, I could see them definitely keeping people on Ballard, because Ballard had such a good game the other, when they played Toledo, that it's going to free up G a little bit. And I think he'll have a good second half. And so that'll be my surprise. I could see him getting a couple scores. I mean, I really could. I could just see, I think they'll try to let McCord get in earlier than last week, so he'll be able to throw some. So, that's my thought.
Okay. Bold prediction is Dallin Hayden will have 3 rushing touchdowns in this game.
Nice. I'm going running backs too. I don't know who it's going to be. It could be one person, it could be 2 people, but they are going to get at least 2 50+ touchdown runs in this game. They're due.
I've been waiting for it, man. They're due for a home run.
So I think you'll get it. It could be Hayden. Could be Mayan, could be Trey, could be 2 of the 3.
It could be both be Trey.
Could all be, they could be same person, gets both. They might get 3 50+ yarders, and it's going to be at least 2.
They need it.
So, but I definitely, they're due for a home run, a big 50+ yarder. They always get them. That's in the one weird thing, they haven't got them yet this year, but they are going to get one, and it's going to be in this game.
Like it a lot.
All right, defense, your player of the game.
I'm going to say, I think Steel Chambers is going to end up with 2 sacks in this game. And I don't know, 8 tackles, 4 for loss, whatever. But I think he's going to have 2 sacks. I think he's going to be the most impactful player while the game still matters. So I'm going to say Steel Chambers.
Okay. Kind of hard to like on this one, because I really think it's gonna be Tommy again.
It's always Tommy. Tommy's about to get the CJ Stroud treatment that you can't use him.
You know what I'm gonna say? I'm gonna say it's gonna be Jack. And the reason I say they pushed, I think the Leo or whatever, they started maybe doing a little bit more stuff with him last week. There was a couple actual plays where he was actually lined up in linebacker depth. It wasn't even, that in between depth between the defense line and the linebackers that he was. I think they're really starting to feel comfortable with him and are starting to really move him around and changing his depths and moving him up all up and down the line. He's lining up in the middle. I mean, he made a great tackle coming from like basically middle linebacker last week. So like, I think it's going to be Jack Sawyer. I think he's just definitely that guy that just fits that position so perfectly. And it's funny, sometimes things are just so obvious and everybody called it out that, oh, that's definitely going to be Sawyer's position. And then, but it's obvious and it ended up being pretty true.
He
So
seems to be doing a good job at it.
Yeah. So that's what I'm going to say. Jack Sawyer will be the player of the game.
Okay. For my kind of like breakout standout guy, I'm going Court Williams. I don't think it's necessarily going to be meaningful, but I think he's going to get in there early. I think he's heard what people have said. Assuming he's healthy, who knows? Maybe he's not healthy this year. Maybe that's a part of what's going on, but I think he's going to get his chance. I think he's going to look real good in the time he has this week.
So I've been really, really, really impressed with the linebackers this year. I think it's going to be CJ Hicks.
I wanted to say it, but I haven't seen him enough. I haven't seen Court that much either.
He's going to get in a lot in the second half. And I think he's going to have a great game. And he's just going to be like, yep, that position's going to be still good for next year. And so, yeah, I think it's going to be Hicks. All right. So before we do, kind of like, the breakout or something like, a big surprise or whatever, because that's next, right?
Well, next is the bold prediction.
That's what I was meaning to say. This could be defense or special teams because I'm kind of leaning on the special teams here. So I will give you I'm not going to throw a curveball at you that you can't use a special teams. So if you want to go defense and special teams, you want to throw two out there, that's fine too. I have
Jair Brown gets the first defensive touchdown, a pick six in this game.
I like that one. I was thinking about possibly doing a pick six. So, I will give you that one. I like that one. I think we're going to get a punt return for a touchdown.
Emeka Egbuka? I mean, he is the man.
Yeah,
now,
he
right?
is the man. I think it's probably going to be him. I just think that he are so due for one, and he's been so close so many times that I think it's this game that he will get it. So that's what I'm going. I do like a pick six. I have a feeling we are going to get a defensive touchdown in this game. I don't know if it's a pick six or if it's a fumble recovery, but I do have a feeling we're going to get a defensive touchdown. But
Rutgers is a confidence booster, man. This is where you start putting it together. You get 6 sacks on these guys, get yourself a couple interceptions, take one back to the house, get your punt return. This is like make everything right with your defense. The defense has been playing great this year, but all the question marks out there, this is where you figure it out.
Mm-hmm.
How we get home. You do it against teams like Rutgers.
Yeah, exactly. So, yep, that's what I'm going with. Let's go through our scores.
Okay, so we'll start off in the Big Ten, right?
Yep.
All right, noon. First game on here. Michigan travels to Kinnick. So Michigan against Iowa. Michigan stands at 4-0, number 4 in the country. Iowa is 3-1, unranked. Michigan is a 10.5 point favorite on the road. I would say if it wasn't a noon game, I would be scared Michigan would lose this.
Yeah.
I think noon's a little early, even at Kinnick, though. So I think talent's going to be the difference here. And I do have Michigan winning, but I don't think it's going to be more than a touchdown.
I think this will be, I was actually surprised how well I thought Maryland's defense held up against Michigan last week. No, I don't think Iowa.
There's some serious BS calls in that game too. Like that interception that wasn't reviewed was complete nonsense.
Like I don't think Michigan's going to lose to Iowa. I've not seen anything out of Iowa's offense that tells me that they're going to be able to,
they get worse every year.
But then like part of me, like I think of like how bad Iowa ended up looking in the Big Ten title game last year. Like, so I've been kind of bouncing back and forth. Is this a cover? Is it not a cover? I think Michigan's going to win, but I don't think they're going to cover. I think Iowa's defense is going to keep it close enough. I think it's going to be like a 17 kind of 10 game. It just kind of has that feeling, the weather's starting to turn a little bit.
Yeah.
But I do think Michigan will win.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, I think we're kind of in agreement there. Purdue against Purdue travels to Minnesota. Purdue's 2-2. Minnesota's 4-0, ranked 21. Minnesota is a 12-point favorite. Purdue kept their 2 losses really close against Penn State and Syracuse, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think they can keep this game close too. I don't think they're going to lose by 12 or more. I think it'll be, again, like a touchdown game. But I'll give Minnesota this game because it's at home. I don't think Purdue's going anywhere on the road and upsetting someone. I could be wrong. I mean, Purdue's the team that does it, but they usually do it on their home field.
Yeah.
Purdue and Iowa are so similar in that aspect.
I think Minnesota's going to cover in this game. I've seen enough from them to think that they're going to just keep on beating teams up, especially in the Big Ten West. And, so I think they're going to cover. I think they'll cover really easily. I think that it's not going to be a good game at all. I think they will beat them by, a few scores. So,
okay. Illinois, Burt Bielema travels to Wisconsin. 3-1 Illinois against 2-2 Wisconsin at Camp Randall. Again, a noon game. Wisconsin is a 7-point favorite. Yeah, give me Wisconsin, and they'll cover in this.
Yeah, I think they will too.
But Illinois is running the ball good, and I don't know. Wisconsin looked pretty terrible against the run last week.
It is Burt. I mean, Burt's going to be like, maybe he's like trying to I'm sorry, Barry. I don't know. Barry retired, didn't he? But
I don't know.
Or is he retiring after this year? I'm sorry, bring me back. I'll take the job. Get rid of Christ. I won't just give up when Ohio State jumps up on me 21-0.
He would though.
But yeah, I think Wisconsin will cover and they'll beat Illinois.
Penn State against Northwestern, 3:30. It's in Happy Valley. Penn State's 11th in the country, ranked 4-0. Northwestern is god awful. Penn State's favored. They're given 25 points. It's a
big number.
That's a big number against Fitzgerald, but they're bad, man.
Yeah.
They've lost. I mean, let me just real quick. They have lost to Southern Illinois, Miami of Ohio, and Duke. Like, they are god awful. So yeah, give me Penn State in the points here. They're going to win by 4 scores.
Yeah, I'm going to go with that too. I don't know if it necessarily be 4 scores, but actually, it would be almost basically 4 scores if they win by 25 plus 25. Yeah, I think they'll blow them out. But I did like the renderings of Northwestern's possible new stadium that they're going to build. Nice. Look really nice.
For sure.
At least throwing some money in there to get a nice new stadium in the Chicago area.
Michigan State 3:30 game travels to Maryland. Neither team's ranked. Maryland is a 8.5-point favorite. It's hard for me to believe Maryland's going to beat Michigan State by over 8.5 points, but Michigan State still does not have a pass defense. And Maryland, I know that a lot of what they did was actually on the ground to Michigan to, kind of surprise them. But I think with if Jarrett's healthy, because I know he was banged up last week, Tagovailoa and Demas, if they're all ready to play against Michigan State, I think they cover at home.
I actually think they cover too. I think they're going to handily beat Michigan State. Which doesn't look good for Michigan State at all coming in, for next week, even on the road, for the Buckeyes, but I have a feeling that, man, that $95 million ain't looking so hot right now. That was a little surprise to throw that out there. And
before the Ohio State game,
but I'm not. I think Maryland's going to beat them pretty easily.
All right, this one kind of makes me laugh. You'll probably laugh. Indiana travels to Nebraska, 7:30 game. Indiana's 3-1. Nebraska is 1-3, and we know how bad Nebraska is. Nebraska is favored in this game by 5 points. Tom Allen is such a fraud. Like, you can't. Vegas knows Tom Allen is a fraud. So I'm going to say Nebraska covers, and I can't believe I'm saying that with this Nebraska team.
Nebraska is in Lincoln.
Yes, and they're a 5-point favorite.
I think they'll cover. I think they'll beat them. I think it'll be a pretty juicy game. Everybody will be pretty juiced up.
Indiana's garbage.
And I think Nebraska will.
And so is Nebraska.
Yeah, I think Nebraska beats them. They cover.
Okay, so before getting to us, let's look at the top 25, see if there's anything worthy to talk about. Let's see. Ole Miss, Kentucky. It's at Ole Miss. They are a 7-point favorite over Kentucky. I don't know. Kentucky's ranked 7th. They've looked okay this year. I think Kentucky's going to win this outright.
Yeah, I think Kentucky beats them.
It's strange. I can't believe Ole Miss is that big of a favorite. Oklahoma against TCU at TCU. Oklahoma is a 6.5-point favorite. They're 3-1. TCU's 3-0. I don't imagine Venables is going to have another loss.
They usually bounce back after they have their Kansas State loss. So
You think they'll cover 6.5?
yeah, it's at TCU.
Yeah.
TCU, I haven't really watched them this year, so I'm not really 100% sure. I'm gonna say yes. But I don't think it's gonna be a big. I think they'll beat them by like 7.
Yeah, I can agree with that. Number 2, Alabama travels to Arkansas. Alabama is a 17-point favorite. Arkansas's defense isn't very good this year. Like that was kind of like what they hung their hat on.
Yeah.
So I think Alabama's going to cover this.
I think this is gonna be a tight game for them. I have a feeling Alabama's gonna win. I think you'll be right around 17. I don't think they'll cover, but I could see them beat them by like 14. So, I'm gonna say that they won't cover, but they'll win.
Oh, very good. Oklahoma State travels to Baylor. Baylor is a 2.5-point favorite. A lot of good games this weekend. Yeah, I think Baylor's the better team. So I'm going to go ahead and say, even though Oklahoma State's undefeated, higher ranked, I think Baylor's going to win this game. And 2.5, I'm going to say they're going to cover because that's just nothing.
Yeah, I'm going to go with you on that one. Baylor beat them and cover.
Here's a number and a team we have not heard in a long time. Wake Forest at 22, 3-1 is playing the number 23 ranked 4-0 Seminoles, man. Seminoles currently are a 7-point favorite. This game will be on ABC. I don't know if there's any like slight changes or anything going to move with the weather down there.
Florida State's home.
Yeah.
No, the hurricane has stayed pretty much away from the northern portion of Florida and the northwest portion of Florida. That's where, Tallahassee's right before you start heading into the Panhandle. So it would probably still be, I don't think they talked about anything about moving. And it's more, I think they're more concerned about the central portion of the state. Now the hurricane is going to go up the coast when it gets out back into the Atlantic. So I don't know if there's going to be rain kicking out towards the west.
Yeah.
That stuff you never really know. So,
Florida State's a 7-point favorite.
I think they cover, man. Of course, hopefully this coach is the guy because they're losing out on the Dion sweepstakes. There's a lot of people think that he'll end up at Georgia Tech now, but I think they'll cover. They'll beat them. Wake Forest. I know that ended up being a shootout last week, but I actually watched a fair amount of that game against Clemson last week, and I didn't. I don't know what it makes me feel about Clemson, but like I'm just not. I've never been impressed with Wake Forest. I'm sorry that it's just like I think Florida State beats them. I think. Maybe this is the guy that's going to start getting them back on track to being who they should be a good football team. They get tons of talent, and they, so maybe this is the guy that kind of leads them a little bit back into the promised land.
I think Wake's going to give them a good game. Just coming off that loss to Clemson. So I think Wake's going to beat the spread. I think Florida State is going to win the game though, but I'm looking at like a field goal type game. I think Wake Forest is hard to get behind in football. It's just like, they always have some random okay year, maybe better.
He is a good quarterback.
Sam Hartman's good.
He's a very good quarterback. It's just, I don't know. It's just, I have a hard time ever thinking that Wake Forest can be really competitive in these games. I've seen way too much Wake Forest is a bad football team over the years.
Yeah, I know. All right. So in the other Death Valley, Clemson hosts NC State. Both are currently undefeated. Clemson is the number 5 team in the country. NC State is number 10. Clemson currently stands as a 7-point favorite. 7:30 game. I think Clemson will win this game, but it will be less than a touchdown.
I'm probably going to be wrong on this one, but I'm going to say NC State upset.
They just don't lose at home.
I know, but I don't. There's always a first for everything.
Yeah, that's true.
But they won't. Clemson's not going to cover. I mean, I've seen
they're not
after
they're
last week
they're not
against
going to
Wake
cover.
Forest. I just don't think they'll cover. But
no, they're not.
I'm going to say NC State though is going to get the win outright.
I like that. I hope they do. I think they could, even though Clemson was one of my playoff teams. But I like I said, I didn't like that to begin with. Okay, Ohio State's a 39.5-point favorite over Rutgers. I mean, it's such a huge number. That is so hard to decide if they're going to hit that or not. I think their defense is going to start putting things more together, even though they're going to have a lot of reserves in the second half of the game. I don't think the offense is, I mean, I know we went over their rushing defense numbers for Rutgers. I don't think they have a prayer to be able to slow down Ohio State's offense. And then at that point is how much does Ryan Day like Greg Schiano? What does he want to do to him there? I think he's still got to run his offense. And I just think it's going to get lopsided really early. And he's not going to, Ryan Day's never been the guy to pack it in early just because he jumps way, way up on somebody. So I'm going to say this game's going to be 63-7.
Yeah.
They're going to cover.
I have a similar score. I was going to say, I think it's going to be 62-10. I'm bouncing back and forth. Are they going to get a couple field goals or are they going to score all touchdowns? Like I was literally between 62-10 or 63-10. So I'll go with the 62. But yeah, I think.
I mean, I know they say their defense is much better. I'm going to have to see it to believe it. I think Ohio State, I mean, I still don't think
Ohio State scores 50 on them without usually, just sleeping.
Ohio State just scored 52 on Wisconsin, like nothing.
Yeah. So like it just,
if they get up for the game,
there's always
going to be fine.
It always seems like there's a guarantee they're going to score 50 points minimum against Rutgers. And, they're a 12, 13 point better than that, in my opinion, on Rutgers. So, yep, that's what I'm saying.
All right. Victory shot for this week. What are we taking after we win?
We'll go say Jefferson's.
All right, Jefferson's reserve. It will be. So hope they better win because I want to have my drink.
Yeah, they're not going to be able to do their Revolutionary War cannons, but we will be celebrating old third president of the United States, Jefferson. So Revolutionary War on our side this week.
That's right. All right. Well, thank you everyone for stopping in. Well, you don't got anything else, right?
Nope.
Thank you everyone for stopping in tonight to the Buckeye Bar. I'm John.
I'm Mike.
OH.
IO. Go Buckeyes.
Go Buckeyes. Thank you for tuning in to this week's Buckeye Bar Guys on Buckeye Bar Talk. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Hit that all notifications bell so you see when new content is added. And please remember to like and share so we can grow our audience. Don't be afraid to comment. We want to know what you're thinking and we want to know what content to add for you guys. OH.
IO.